Hi everyone, I'm Taylor and I am a first year Master's in Public Health student at Columbia University. Today I wanted to tell everybody a little bit about my experience moving from Florida to New York City. So I did a lot of research about moving to the city, and that started with, of course, how to find an apartment, which is the majority of what I'm going to talk about. So my experience, I used a number of different apps. I used Straight Easy and Naked Apartments and maybe even one or two others, but those were the main two that I ended up using. And I favorited a lot, a lot. And then my boyfriend and I went through them and we decided which ones we loved and were close to campus and kind of rated them on those two things, how much we liked it and how close it was to my campus at Columbia. So then when it came summertime, close to when I was going to be starting in the fall, I needed to start looking for a broker. During my research, I had kind of found that since I wasn't from the area and I knew nothing about living in New York City, I was pretty much going to have to get a broker. So I messaged a lot of different brokers that managed different apartment listings throughout those two apps. And we had this first broker, and he showed us, I had sent him an abbreviated list of all the apartments that we loved. And so he showed us a bunch of apartments, and in one day I think we saw about 7, and only one of them was from my list. So I was a little disappointed in that because I think he was only showing apartments from the same landlord that were owned by the same apartment owner. So I was a little disappointed in that fact. I thought I was going to see a wider variety, and they were also all 1-bedrooms. So of course we had a certain budget, but I knew from my research and listings that there were some decent options that were 2 bedrooms, maybe a little bit farther from campus, but that was really important to myself and especially my boyfriend, that we could have an office space when he finally moved up here when he finishes school in May. So I moved on from that broker. So the next day I saw a bunch of random listings from random different brokers, and took video tours of all of them to show my boyfriend, and then at the end of the day we'd list all of our pro cons for each of the apartments that we saw that day, and we'd slash out some of them that we definitely knew we weren't going to live in, and star some of them that we were like, okay, this is our top 2 choices of this ones we saw today. And then on one of those random visits, random apartment tours, we ended up seeing a listing that was in Inwood, which is about almost as far north as you can go and still be in Manhattan. And it was a 1-bedroom. It was still under construction. It was being newly renovated, and it was beautiful. It had exposed brick down the side, which was completely my aesthetic. And it, like I said, was being newly renovated. It was fairly spacious for what I had seen in New York so far and what I had kind of had as a preconceived notion of what New York apartments were like. So to show us what the kitchen and bath would look like after they were done being remodeled, he showed us a 2-bedroom, same building. And that apartment was also beautiful and very, very spacious. So it was also $400 outside of our budget. So we had just kind of saved it so that we could see what the kitchen and bath would kind of look like and things like that. At the end of that day, I was talking to my boyfriend and my best friend about it, and we were also trying to decide how were we going to get an apartment regardless of which one we chose. So a big issue anywhere that you're looking for apartments is making sure that you meet the requirements as far as income and things like that. And if you don't meet the income requirements, then you need a guarantor or someone to sign off and basically guarantee that you will pay the rent. If you don't, they will. But in New York City, the kind of typical income requirements that I had seen was 50 times the monthly rent in a year for the actual tenant, and if you needed a guarantor, the guarantor had to make 80 times the monthly rent in a year. So we were really struggling with that because that really decreased the budget that we were able to look at. But we had found a company called, oh gosh, what was it called? we had found a company that basically lowered those requirements. So it only required the tenants to make 27.5 times the monthly rent and the guarantor to make, I believe, 50 times. So for a $2,000 apartment, that was still, $100,000 a year. So we were still kind of trying to figure out how to do that. We had to move very, very quickly. We were trying to figure out how to even get approved for an apartment. We'd seen all these apartments, we had our top lists, and then we kind of had an epiphany. One of our brokers had asked us at one point if, when trying to figure out our financial situation, he had asked us if paying a whole year up front was an option for us. And we were like, oh no, it's a lot of money up front, especially for a New York apartment, and I wasn't going to get my student financial aid for until classes started, and I needed an apartment obviously before then. So the solution that we ended up coming by and going with is not necessarily one that I recommend for everyone, but this is what was going to work best for us. So I ended up applying for a personal loan and got approved for $30,000, which was enough to pay the whole year of rent up front for any of the apartments that we had wanted. After seeing that 2-bedroom, we started thinking about paying the whole year up front and how we might be able to do that. It was at that time that I started working with another broker who showed us a bunch of apartments, of 2-bedroom apartments that were under the $2,400 price range. And he ended up showing us the same 2-bedroom that we had seen as an example of what the kitchen and bathroom would look like for the one apartment, the exposed brick apartment. He showed us that same apartment, and so I kind of took it as a sign that maybe this is where we're supposed to be. So from then on, we kind of had our sights set on the 2-bedroom in Inwood, and so I got the personal loan and started doing the paperwork and got approved for that apartment, which that's another thing too, is that some of the building owners wouldn't take a whole year up front. They wanted you to make monthly payments, so we had to make sure that the owner of that building, of our building, would take the whole year up front in the first place, which luckily he would. And so a couple months later, here we are. We're in the middle of painting and making it my own. So with my boyfriend down in Florida until May, it's going to be very weird to live without him for a little while, so I've kind of been focusing my energy on decorating the apartment and making sure that it's exactly how I want it, so hence the painting and all that. But with the moving, that was the next hurdle, was actually moving our things. So I had moved apartments before, but it was always within Florida. The farthest I'd moved was an hour and a half away. So I had no idea how to move certain things, like my guitar. How do you move that? Because when we moved it, we just put it in the back of the car, and that wasn't really an option here because we weren't going to drive up because there was way too many safety hazards as far as me driving a U-Haul in the city. So I again did a bunch of research and found a moving company that had good reviews and had a decent price. So we had a great experience with our movers. There was 3 guys. They came and they were super professional and super quick with everything. Then delivering our furniture a couple weeks later was another story. So 2 days after our furniture was picked up, my boyfriend and I took a plane up to New York and basically readied the apartment for the boxes and the furniture. So we cleaned the floors and started painting and got the air conditioning units installed. So that's one of to answer a question, that's one of the bigger adjustments that I've had to make moving from Florida to New York, is there's no centralized AC in New York usually. So we had to get 2 air conditioning units. So we put one in the bedroom, one in the living room, and yeah, so left my car in Florida, which was another really big adjustment. I have obviously been driving since I was 16, like most people in less urban areas, and so it's very, very weird to feel as though I've lost a sense of freedom by not having my car. Like I can't just get in my car and go places, which doesn't entirely make sense because the subway is great. The subway is actually one of my favorite parts about living here, surprisingly. So that, I haven't really lost that freedom, but it's just very weird to not have my car, especially when grocery shopping. Oh my gosh, especially when grocery shopping. But we rented the apartment for the furniture to arrive, and so what ended up happening was they hired random people off the street to carry our furniture and things up into our apartment. We live on the second floor, so yeah, it was definitely an unexpected hurdle to have to overcome, dealing with these movers and having the random people, and of course they were trying to charge us for extra things, like there being stairs, even though I had been told that since we were only one floor up, there was no charge, and like a long walk fee, and all kinds of stuff that the internet had warned me about when it came to movers. But the company we had gone with had very good reviews, so, and our pickup experience was so good, I wasn't expecting that at all. And then the boss of the moving truck, couldn't even figure out how to put our bed frame back together. And so it was 10 o'clock at night. We were starving, we were exhausted, and so I just told him to leave and that my boyfriend and I would put it together ourselves. So we did. We ordered a pizza. We had our furniture in the apartment, and it wasn't out on the street anymore, at least. And that was that. Then I was left with unpacking and finishing up the apartment somewhat by myself. And so that's kind of where we're at now. But I want to talk about some of the cool things about living in the city that I found so far. Obviously, I've only lived here for like a month, but I have my unlimited Metro Pass, I have my Columbia student ID, and I have a system and a list of stores that I go to for certain things. So I'm getting there. I'm getting used to life in the city. So it turns out I love the subway. I love having my Metro card. I love swiping it and like figuring out which line I'm supposed to take and if I'm going uptown or downtown, and it's just a very cool experience. So I love the Metro. I don't necessarily love taking the subway to the grocery store and then having to carry my groceries back on the train. That I'm still getting used to. But all in all, I like all of the little stores that you can go to, like all the little bodegas on the corner that have all kinds of interesting things. And I'm sure there's plenty of other cool things about living in the city that I have forgotten to mention right now. But if you're from New York or if you just moved here, let me know your experiences in the comments down below. And if any of you guys have lived alone or been in a long distance, out-of-state relationship, let me know how you guys deal with that. So today is Saturday, and Monday's Labor Day, and then on Tuesday I start classes. So it'll be the start of my master's program and this whole new journey for me. So if you guys are interested in seeing what my first week is like, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if so, then I will see you guys next week and show you what my first week was like.